So like the market cap of MicroStrategy is about $40 billion today. And I think they're going to be $1 trillion company plus, likely at the top of the leaderboard. And I think that equation, just with having an underlying understanding of Bitcoin, that equation is really binary to me. Like it's not, they're not going to float around like the 70th or 80th largest company in the US market. Like they're
Hmm.
going to go to the top and they're probably going to stay there. And maybe they bounce around one, top 10, top 20, but I think anything below that is buy territory for me. So I'm buying forever. I'm buying the local top. I'm buying Bitcoin forever, and I'm buying both of those in conjunction.
Sorry for the quick interruption, but if you're interested in trading MicroStrategy options, any other stock out there, Bitcoin, Solana, or any other crypto out there, you can now do that on MooMoo. And if you sign up with our affiliate link, which we pin in the comment section, also in the description below, when you sign up and deposit any amount, you're going to receive up to 20 free stocks. And each one of these stocks could be valued at up to $2,000. So make sure to sign up with MooMoo. Go get that free money. Now let's go ahead and get back to the video. Welcome back to the channel. Aaron here from the Bitcoin Bros. That was Jeff from the QuantBros telling that he thinks that MicroStrategy is going to a $1 trillion company. And if you guys are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button. We have new MicroStrategy, Bitcoin, crypto videos coming out every single day. And in today's video, this is a recent interview that Jeff did. He's going to be talking about Nav and how that could affect the MicroStrategy stock price in the future, how people really don't understand the opportunity that MicroStrategy is presenting right now. And he actually gives a number on how much Bitcoin he thinks MSTR can accumulate over the next couple of years. Wanted to share this with you guys because there's a lot of useful information in today's clip. He hits on a lot of good points, so recommend you guys check this one out to the end and leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Let's go ahead and jump into today's clip.
This conversation of net asset value is really interesting. There are a lot of perspectives out there, and it's funny. I had anticipated this as well, is that people are going to freak out about net asset value and valuing a company at some multiple of their underlying Bitcoin holdings, and it's interesting to see the battling almost on both sides from Bitcoiners and MicroStrategy bulls, disagreeing on this aggressively, um, which I
Very
find very,
aggressively.
very aggressively. But it's
Very.
like we're both going in the same direction, right? Like, trading this thing is incredibly hard. It's like trying to jump on a bullet train, right? Like you're gonna get your face ripped off. The thing's going 200 miles an hour, and then it just immediately stops and goes the other way. Like Michael Saylor has commoditized the stock because of the volatility, and he's incentivized to keep it even more volatile. So the concept of this, thinking you know what you're doing, or you know where this is going, or you know the strategy, is crazy to me, right? Right? Like there's no theoretical cap on the multiple of net asset value. It's not like it's gonna run up to three and down to one and run up to three and down to one. It will likely breathe, right? Like I think Ben
Mhm.
Workman said this is like net asset value will likely have this kind of breath where it will go up and it'll go down and it'll go up and it'll go down as the tools are utilized to harness the value of the premium, and to maximize the underlying Bitcoin holdings. The same thing happened back in March, the March of 24, right? Price
Mhm.
of MicroStrategy went from like $500 to 2,000 in a month. Right? It was crazy. Everybody was freaking out. It was like February to March was like the totally insane ride, and people were freaking out. People were saying it's overvalued. The short report from Carousel came out. There was definitely infighting between Bitcoiners and MicroStrategy bulls, and it was almost it was it's crazy because it's crazier today than it was back in February. But I think the concept back in February was a little bit more worthy of like the fighting, at that point. Um, but the reason I think Preston and I had this conversation was because I argued this is calculus, not algebra.
Hmm.
And there's this the concept of rate of change is important in my mind when thinking about the expansion of net asset value and thinking about the probability of new entrants coming into play. New entrants being new buyers of MicroStrategy, passive flows, passive index flows, along with retail piling in and other institutional investors who are recognizing the power of this MicroStrategy trade. There's this concept in natural resource economics that comes to my mind when thinking about um, the calculus associated with the growth rate. So there's this concept in forestry. So the growth rate of trees, where the growth rate of trees when they're very young is very slow. And then when they start to get, 10, 20, 30 years old, the growth rate increases really rapidly. And when the tree starts to get really old, the growth rate slows down. And so if you're managing a forest and you're trying to maximize the yield of your forest, you identify the derivative of the growth rate of the tree, and that tells you where the rate of change starts to slow down and go the opposite direction. And at that point, it's the maximum yield uh, on your harvest, basically for forestry management. And so when I think about net asset value and I think about like this MicroStrategy equity, there's this concept of like I think there's going to be a little bit of a S curve type adoption with MicroStrategy as well, where we're still in the really early days of who knows about MicroStrategy, right? Like I run around New York and London. I talk to these people about what MicroStrategy is doing, and literally people laugh at me. They have no idea. It seems super scammy to everybody, and they don't understand. One, they don't understand Bitcoin. They haven't put the time in to understand Bitcoin, and two, it's hard for them to conceptualize like the framework of a company uh, purchasing Bitcoin or transitioning 100% of their cash assets from USD to Bitcoin, and not understanding the downstream implications of that. So I think there's going to be this incredibly fast adoption of people buying MicroStrategy shares in the future, and I mean, partly is I think that because of the current design of the equity market, right, with how passive index funds work. As the price of Bitcoin rises, the market cap of MicroStrategy rises, and the proportion of dollars that's going into MicroStrategy is not increasing linearly; it's increasing exponentially. And so, in my mind, it actually fits the growth rate like equation for um, like trees or like harvesting trees like very, very well. It's kind of this S curve where you can um, maximize yield on the net asset value expansion from changing volume of people purchasing shares. So, um, you know, the other thing I think about with net asset value and managing net asset value, I'm sure this is a metric that the MicroStrategy team is probably watching, and they're probably thinking about it when they're designing their at the market offerings and selling shares in the market and looking at convertible debt. Um, and I think this equation is incredibly complex, and I think it's I think most of retail and most of Twitter are underestimating the complexity of the equation. Um, MicroStrategy can't. This isn't unlimited, right? I think a lot of the retail investors and people on Twitter think that at the market offering is practically unlimited, but the equation is a little bit more complicated because you've got to take into consideration ownership rights and ownership stake and voting power. And I think that's something that's probably closely monitored and closely watched in terms of Saylor's position and his voting power within MicroStrategy. Additionally, there's a long term strategy and perspective as well, where in my opinion, and people ask about this a lot. Well, like MicroStrategy is going to go down a ton in the bear market. That's the comments that a lot of people say. And in my opinion, I think MicroStrategy themselves could prevent the future bear market if they manage the net asset value of the stock appropriately. And I think this is a really big idea because, um, you know, if people anticipate a technical bear market is coming at some point in the future, then in my mind, there's incentive to let the net asset value run up a little bit higher.
Hmm.
So you have some cushion to kind of use and leverage with your stock price at some point in the future. So, like for example, let's just say that I don't know, 2026, like sentiment starts to change, and you know, there's kind of fear of a bear market for 26 and 27 or something like that. Um, there could be incentive to have the net asset value be much higher, so you have this cushion that you can kind of fall back on and push down on to capture opportunity in a stressed environment or a stressed Bitcoin environment. So um, if they manage the strategy appropriately, um, what we know of a bear market may not exist in the future because of their ability to capture the premium in a bear market. If there is a sustained premium, in my opinion, I think there will be if they get added to these additional index funds like QQQ and S&P 500. Like if you go on the saylortracker.com, they were definitely buying in the bear market. Now, the difference this time would be if there is a bear market, MicroStrategy's in strength. That's a big difference, right? Like people were concerned about solvency with MicroStrategy and like margin calls because their position was underwater. Now, if we think about a theoretical bear market at some point in the future, let's just say it goes to 500,000 and comes back to 250,000. MicroStrategy is not going to be in a negative position or concerned about a margin call. They're going to be in strength, and that is that's a little scary to me. I mean, like it's scary if I were any other company that were thinking about a Bitcoin strategy, I would be a little nervous because a little nervous about MicroStrategy's ability to continue to raise in this type of situation in the future. Basically, I think their lead is going to get even bigger and bigger and bigger uh, because they will be in strength in any potential future bear market. Well, I mean, this is we're in this gold rush scenario, right? And if you would have asked me 6 months ago or 8 months ago, I'd probably say 300,000. Now, with my understanding of the strategy, the depth and liquidity of the convertible bond market, the ability to access these alternative pools of capital and monetize the volatility of the stock, I think differently. I think probably, um, yeah, I think somewhere north of 500,000, I think is um, like terminal MicroStrategy holdings. I think there is a point where they get to 500,000 at some point within the next decade.